Hello, and welcome to the Heart of Collaboration. I'm your host, Dr. Bernice Belt. Thank you for welcoming us into your viewing and listening audience. We are still on our local artist series, and today we have Mr. Alan Jackson. He is a professional videographer, and he's going to tell us more about himself and some things that are going to enlighten you and me. And welcome, Alan Jackson.
Well, hello, Dr. Bernice. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm excited to be with you today.
I'm excited too, and thank you for making time. This is a busy man, and so when he makes time plugging through his daily exciting profession, he is really talking about quality time, and thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You know, I do have a lot of fun with what I get to do for a living. A lot of it is, you know, being paid to play to a certain extent. Been a lot of places, met a lot of different people. Every day is different. Every show is different. So, yeah, I appreciate a chance to be able to talk about it.
That's wonderful. One of the things about Local Artist Series is that I've already had so many people who've commented about learning so much in a short period of time that they didn't even know existed in Paducah. And and I get them to tell other people about it, because even though we're a small community, it's amazing that there's so many wonderful things that go on in Paducah, McCracken County,
yes, that
born and raised here citizens don't know anything about. And so the Heart of Collaboration is one of many opportunities for people to learn more about what our community offers. And at the same time, they can learn that some of the things they do is actually art.
That's funny. You know, I didn't really think about what I do as video production, as art, until I became part of the Paducah School of Art and Design, and I work in the visual communications department, and have for a long time. I've been around this place for 20 years now. So whenever you take something new into consideration, it's kind of strange. Well, when we relocated our department into the Paducah School of Art and Design, I really went to my students and said, this gives us a completely different perspective on what we do and how we do it. It's a lot about storytelling, and storytelling is definitely an art. Now, whether you're a sculptor or a painter, or you draw, or you metalsmithing or pottery, any of those things are a creative process, and video is definitely one of them. The oddest things about it is almost all of those other different art forms, you have a very tangible product, something you can hold in your hand when you get done. In our business, it's not, and more it's becoming less and less that does it really exist because of the internet. It is not anything other than ones and zeros stored on computers all around the world. So it's kind of fun when you think about it. If I get to impact and influence people by telling a story, but from start to finish, it's almost make-believe. So there's a magic to it just from telling that. So it's a once upon a time story.
Oh, awesome. Well, let's go a little ways back. Talk a little bit about early influences when you were a kid, some of the main points of impact, maybe some of the people who influenced you, maybe by their art or some form of encouragement. Tell us a bit about you, because I know that people are going to see this and they're going to want to know all about you.
Well, like most people, growing up, I had my favorite television shows when I was a kid. You know, we only had 3-ish television stations when I was growing up as well. So around here, 3, 6, and 12 was about it, and you know, a few others would come in if the weather was just right and the trees didn't have too many leaves. But a lot of the shows that I really liked and enjoyed, Captain Kangaroo, Mr. Rogers, different things like that. And once again, it was a single person that spokesman for the show, so to speak, but they made a connection with the viewer. And I didn't realize it at the time. I thought they were being, you know, very, very kind and considerate of me, you know, that I was their full attention. I didn't realize that, you know, thousands, if not millions of people were feeling exactly the same way. So once again, that was probably my first idea and understanding of they care about me. And so I realized that it was more about feeling than fact, but let's never confuse the two, which is unfortunately kind of what we get into today's media world and different things like that. But you know, it was just a good feeling. And so I grew up enjoying that. I think we run around with the hairbrush or the drumstick or the something, pretending it's a microphone, whether we can sing or whether we can't. So
Yes.
we do all of those little things and we play. But I was very shy growing up, so that was my chance to be an extrovert with no one else around. You know, I realized that there were cameras there and pretended in different things like that. So that was fun. Once I got into school, I got away from that a bit more. It was more about the studies of English and writing and history. I love those, a lot of communication that goes on in that. And it wasn't until I got into high school and was terrified of any kind of public speaking or anything like that. I got into ag class, and one of the things in the agricultural class was that you had to recite this creed. And there was a contest, and that struck fear in my heart. I went to the theater department and asked the teacher, what would you do if this were you? I've got to get through this little 5-minute thing. And I was literally thinking I was going to die. You know, fear of public speaking was definitely one of those true things with me. They showed me a few different things to respond. I drew on my writing skills and different things like that about telling a story. And so I turned that little contest into storytelling and won the contest. And so the greater fear then was I had to present again at more and more levels. So that was a really big change in who I was. And so through the years, I've just kind of enjoyed being part of a story, and a lot of times, sometimes that's mine, but a lot of times it is other people's story, your story, or the story of a business, or a school, or an individual, or a product or service. So.
In high school and college, what were some of the opportunities that you were able to take advantage of that led you to where you are today?
Oh, around here, I was part of the WKYX Broadcasting Club, the Kicks Broadcasting Club. So. Met my first real radio disc jockey about that time and thought that, well, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be when I grow up, and I definitely have a face for radio, so I didn't mind giving it a try a bit. And actually turned out that during that time I met one of my best friends. Didn't know it at the time, but I was like 15, he was 16 or 17, and we struck up a really good friendship. During that club time and different stuff. A few years later, he became my first boss in radio. And then a few years after that, he struck out on his own, started his own business, and so I hired him to do a lot of projects for me, and that friendship grew. So literally, he was one of those people that was a part of my life every day from the time I was a teenager, and then, you know, grew into a middle-aged man. So.
That is exciting. I know that sometimes you don't think, like many artists, you don't think, well, that part of your life is not all that exciting. But to others, it's extremely exciting and interesting. And that's an important part of what professionals can do for the general public, is to make that connection, not necessarily personal, but make enough connection that people can see this as part of the community they live in, as opposed to something they just watch on television. In college, did you have opportunity to do any videography?
I did. I studied in radio television. That was one of my majors, was radio television. Also in journalism, so I was like, I can have a real job, you know, if it doesn't work out great. But it was, once again, it was more about the telling of a story, and my life has really been this one big giant circle built around that telling of a story. And because I'm one of those people who doesn't sit still for very long, I get bored. If you know, I go to a concert and I'm like, I'm bored. I can tell you what to turn up and what to turn down and what to move and this sort of stuff. So I got bored with just, you know, taking the classes. So I started buying some of my own equipment, and I used that equipment to make shows for the various higher education facilities that I attended, and wound up being on staff at Murray State as a college student staff.
Wow.
And I produced 3 television shows in each season while I was there. I had a kids show. That one was a lot of fun. I felt that was kind of an homage to Captain Kangaroo and Mr. Rogers. Also had a lifestyle program. Some people around the area remembered a show called PM Magazine. So we did our own little PM Magazine kind of show for around Murray State, different businesses and lifestyle activities. And then was also a news producer there as well. So you know, and then I got to work on a lot of other shows as well that weren't mine, but were still just part of the staff duties of doing that, all while studying. And so that was my job.
Wow, and you didn't think that would be interesting?
Well, you know, when it's that much fun, you wonder, you know, when's everybody going to catch on that I'm getting paid to play again, as I love to refer it that way. But you do learn a lot. I mean, every person I meet teaches me something, lots of things. I don't mind being the dumbest person in the room because that means that I've got a lot of learning opportunities in front of me. So when I do meet these wonderful people that have come in and out of my life over the years and get to do some really strange things, you know, I've met everything from the riffraff of a community to presidents, and worked with them or worked around them on various projects and things like that. You know, almost any industry that you can think of that's legal, I have worked in and around to help promote their product or service or company. And you know, like I said, it started in the early days in that one-to-one connection, and I've just never tried to get away from that. That, to me, I guess, is what keeps it fun.
Before we go on to your business, you want to give a shout out to anybody?
Oh, I definitely want to say thank you to my wife and my kids. They put up with a lot while Dad goes out and plays, and I invite them along. They don't seem to find it near as much fun as what I do, though. I've tried to, each child, as they've grown up, I've got 2 boys and a daughter, and as they've gone through the years and kind of get to where I don't have to worry about keeping an eye on them every single minute that we're on a video project, I've invited them to come along and be a part of it. Doesn't take long until they get bored. So it's like, well, you know, I'm definitely not the cool dad in their eyes. But all of their friends, they love going with me to getting to do things and stuff like that. So, you know,
that's
cobbler
exciting.
shoes.
That's exciting. Hello, Miss Jackson. Well, take us now to how you began your business.
Well, coming out of college, I was wanting to make my mark on the world, and when I did, I noticed that well, actually, when you go back into college, it still took funding in order to produce those shows. And so if I was very excited about something, rather, I could sell sponsorships to it. They would provide income to the school. The school would allow me to use their facilities and the mix of equipment to be able to produce it and put it out there. Well, I found out that I could continue that other places. The problem was, you know, that 95% of the income went to the business or facility that I was working for, and just a little pittance of that came back to me, despite the fact that I was doing most of the work.
Right.
And I said, well, you know, I love you and I appreciate you, but I don't want to work for you. I just want to do this. I don't know that I need you. So I started my own company. And I'm a big proponent of self-employment. Nothing wrong with large companies or anything like that. That's just not who I am, and it didn't fit for me. It's a great fit for my wife. You know, I give a shout out to my sweetheart there.
Yes.
You know, she loves kind of a 9-to-5 routine where she can be off on weekends. If you're self-employed, you're never off. You're always thinking about your business. Each person you meet could be a business contact or a great friend or an ally. That's going to be a lifelong association going on. You never quite really know about that. So once I got out of college and kind of found a few careers that were, you know, places that I liked working with, I just kind of started up my own business. That was a long time ago. I've been self-employed since '82. And the company that I have now, Advantage Multimedia, has been around since 1985. And so it's been one long ride after that. Before I was just kind of an independent consultant or, you know, a hired gun, so to speak, to come in and help with different people. But being around that long, as I say, I have met a wonderful assortment of people. It's strange. Like I said, I live in the land of misfit toys, and it's a great place to hang out, you know.
Do you have any particular moments that you want to share that were particularly satisfying?
Oh, There are ongoing projects that I do for a couple of decades now. I've been associated with the Kenny Rogers Children's Center in Sikeston, Missouri.
Wow.
And they have a telethon over there. Well, Kenny has been there a few times in order to help raise money for the facility. They don't charge for the children who need their services there.
Oh, my.
And so it's a great cause. But we put together a telethon each year. And again, you meet a lot of celebrities from behind the scenes, and you get to do a lot of fun things. You know, the guys here, they don't realize how great it is for this to be their job right now. They go out and, you know, have to dig ditches or pick up cans. That might be, you know,
yeah.
I remember when I had it so good. But
yeah.
Once again, the people that you met along the way, the camera operators, the technical directors, the engineers, all of those people worked in collaboration together to produce one product, but they brought all of this wonderful assortment of skill set. And the people at home saw a show. The people behind the scenes, well, we got to play with great toys, but we got to make great friendships.
Yes.
And again, that story of connecting was far more important than any of the other part of it. But you know, we've had presidents come to the area during their campaigns. So presidents of the United States, candidates for president of the United States come to the area. And as one of those people who is well known in the media business around, I get invited in to help with certain aspects of it from time to time. So you meet people there. Again, sometimes it's the people that aren't in front of the camera. It might be a little girl that stands beside you. You didn't even know she was there for a little bit, and she sees you having a good time, and she too is kind of enthralled with the lights and the cameras and what's going on and the technical side of it. And you never know. That little girl, you know, may grow up to be a Hollywood movie producer or someone that's, you know, the next newscaster for the area. And you don't know that maybe you've started them on a life of career, just taking just 5 minutes and saying hi and letting them push a button or different things like that, twist the focus ring on the lens. Those are the fun times. It really, really is.
I think that the very first time we met was at the telethon. The Paducah dancing.
Yes.
Yes. And you were actually on an assignment.
Yes, I was working.
Yes, and I remember how fun it was to kind of watch, you know, people who were behind the scenes doing things, and I just kind of had a good time looking around. I was a judge that particular night, and I was just having fun looking around and walking around and just looking, you know, looking at things. And I thought, this is one of the major events in Paducah area.
Yes.
And they do such a good job planning it, putting things together, televising it. And I had, you know, I got on the stage and danced a few times during some of the numbers. But I remember that it was very brief.
Yes.
But I do remember that, and you were on your job. And I really appreciate professionalism. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's street sweeping, or if it's picking up garbage for the city or the county, or cleaning the restrooms on a college campus. I don't care what it is. I appreciate professionalism, and I appreciate excellence. I remember when I was growing up, my father said, if you don't speak to anybody else in a building, speak to the one who cleans the restrooms. Oh. That's what my daddy taught me, and that was one of his tools for appreciating being professional, but being humble, developing a balance between professionalism and humility.
Daddy's a wise man.
Yes, and that's what I like about you, Alan Jackson, is because you have that nice balance. You're about the business, and yet you have a sense of humor. You put people at ease, and then you do a really quality product. And you know, that takes balance. That takes focus and balance, and it takes passion. And it's clear to me that you have all of those, and I'm thankful that our paths have crossed, and I really appreciate you and the work that you do. Well, thank you. And I know I am nowhere near aware of all the things that you have done in what, 37 years?
37 plus years. We're working on number 38, getting it on here. So.
But in different walks around here, if I mention your name, a lot of people know who I'm talking about.
It is funny, the total number of lives that I've connected. You know, there was one time when we would watch the local newscasts, and you know, every newscast, if you produce commercials, you look for your work. And so the news would come on and we'd watch the commercial breaks. You know, I couldn't tell you what was on the news, but I was watching the commercial breaks, kind of like the Super Bowl when people do that. But, you know, it was like, oh, there's one of mine and there's one of mine. And, you know, that one's not mine and that one's not mine. It was like, hey, I had 50% in that break. You kind of laugh and joke about it. Well, you know, I also did a long time ago the opening for Channel 6's newscast. So every day, you know, thousands and thousands of people around the region, I was able to touch their lives. Now, they had no clue who I was or anything like that. It was a great opportunity. A lot of friends over at the television station and the like, good friends, lifelong friends again. So it was just a great joy to be able to help them with something or other. But it's humbling to know that you do touch as many people's lives as you want, and you just have to have a good message to go out there with. You know, you mentioned that I try to put people at ease. I do, but that's because I've been around people who are tyrants, and it's like, you know, that could have been a joy to do, but you took all the joy out of it. You stole my joy from that.
Yeah.
You crushed my spirit with that one, and I never want to be that way. Again, that one bit of helpfulness and kindness may set someone's lives on a completely different path, and you're never going to know that. You know, we've all. There's no telling how many thousands of people's lives that you have touched as well, and all in a positive way. And those become our blessings as well. I think you'll agree.
And we know that not everybody is going to tell us.
No.
Most people will not. They'll appreciate it, of course. They will be impacted by it, but most people don't express that to us. But we know, because we know it's right, we know that it impacts people.
It gets back to you a lot of times. They will say something to someone else who knows you. And like I said, when you know everybody in town, eventually you can't talk about them. Paducah's small enough, you're almost related to everybody in town, so maybe you can talk about them. But with the world, the way that it's changed, it is easy to reach out well beyond the local borders now. And that's part of what I try to get my students to do with the Visual Communications Department at the Paducah School of Art and Design.
Tell us a little about that class, and maybe even about how it's scheduled, and, you know, maybe some foundational points about how it's set up at the school.
Okay. Well, I teach several video classes, and then I also have another class that I'm big on that is what I call emerging media. And really it is how to communicate over the web with all of these different technologies that have found its way into our lives. You know, everybody has one of these in their pocket. And I always encourage my students, you know, most of the time instructors say, well, you know, keep your phone in your pocket during my class. Not me. Mine's an out-of-pocket experience. That's where I want your phone to go on. Maybe you'll, you know, shoot video of the lecture that I'm doing that particular way, or an explanation or a demonstration I'm doing that day, so that you can remember it better. Maybe you will, I'll give assignments, and I'll have you say, go show me 3 things that you go by every day that you really hadn't paid any attention to, that you really hadn't noticed. And it'll be everything from fire plugs to signs on buildings, you know, a speed limit sign. You know, we get in our own little world and put our blinders on, and we miss some of the more important directions in our life. And so it'll work that particular way. But these little instruments right here, they have changed the world.
Yes.
I mean, in it you have a phone, which is what it was designed to be, so that you could call anyone within a certain range. But you can also text, and that's instantaneous. And so it's just a very short message, a conversation, a connection that goes on. They are, for the last several years, have been high-definition cameras. Everything for the last half dozen years or so is HD, if not 4K camera. So you have this thing in your pocket. Get it out and use it. Very first lesson I do try to teach them, though, is take the camera and the phone and turn it from that to this. That's the way we really want to shoot video. If you've noticed the television you're watching at home, it's not tall, it's wide. So lesson number 1 learned there. But then once again, once we start to realize some of the tips and tricks and techniques, How do we communicate? How do we get that message out? How do we make it fun for the person behind the camera or in front of the camera, or the viewer? You know, it just absolutely watching at home, or you know, anything else. You know, this is now our distribution network. This is our phone. It is our telegraph. That's what texting is modern day telegraph. We email, so there's our mailbox that we have all of the time. We watch videos, so it's our television, and when we enter blog entries and different things like that, or social media posts, that's our newspaper. So we have, you know, the entire world of communication packing around within our pocket, that we're paying for dearly each month. Hopefully unlimited streaming of different things. But when you get into that, there's never been a better time, if you're a communicator, to be alive. Technology has brought us so many wonderful things, and probably, maybe it should be lesson number 2, but I let them have a little fun first, is to use, lesson number 2 becomes, use that training responsibly. You know, you don't turn to the dark side of the Force, to use a Star Wars reference there. Use it for good. Help people, make their lives better. You know, it's okay to have differing opinions, but treat them with respect.
We have 2 or 3 minutes left,
Okay.
and let's briefly talk about enrollment there at the school for anyone who's, you know, been touched a little bit by this and want to be interested in that.
Sure, you can go to West Kentucky Community and Technical College's website, and you work your way around. One of the tabs will have a thing about students or enrollment, and you can click on that. And then you've got your various departments that you can go to. Now, where our art school is very directed study, as far as we stay within the creative sides of different artistic things, I will always tell my students, try to take English classes so that you're better at just general punctuation, spelling, grammar, that sort of things. For certainly, take math classes. Everything that we do in this business is math. Beauty can be directed as math. Everything is math. And then the third thing is to get into psychology, or sociology is actually a little bit better, but to understand how the brain works and how people think. Once again, it makes you better at telling your stories. But West Kentucky Community and Technical College, you go online and you'll quick Google search and you're there.
Videography is an art form, and I would like to encourage anyone who is viewing this episode that Alan Jackson is indeed a person with expertise and, of course, a man of excellence, and he made it a point to develop it. It didn't come by accident. And so I'd like to encourage people to look into the Paducah School of Art and Design here at WKCTC, and then to be more involved out in the community where you can see more of what artists do. We want you to know more and to feel more, and then for you to connect, because many things that you do and that you're passionate about are indeed art. Thank you for sharing and your time with us at the Heart of Collaboration. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Alan Jackson.
Thank you, Dr. B.